Hello!
I'm Michael.
I'm Daniel.
And we're Two Tall Gingers. So welcome back.
Hi.
We've had a little hiatus.
We have had
a couple of weeks.
And you know why? 'Cause reasons,
Reasons.
as the kids say.
Reasons.
You know, know what topics to do, headaches,
Yeah,
life,
there's been some medical
travel, there's
Yeah.
a bunch going on. But don't you worry, it's all working out.
We're back, we're here, we're queer, we're fabulous.
We're here, we're queer. Get used to us, girl, because we are having a
Yes.
nighttime
That's
recording
right.
session. Booze with the boys.
Cheers to the queers.
To our dears.
Mm.
We've got a vodka and cran.
Vodka cran with salsa.
Mandarin explosion.
Yummy.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's the topic, Daddy?
So in this week's video, we're going to talk about disability and being gay.
There are disability gays?
Yes.
Yes, Virginia, there are disability gays.
People who are gay who have physical disabilities.
For sure.
Just like me.
Oh, hi there, you.
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
Mwah. So in our very first video, if you have seen it and you remember when we talked about what we'd be talking about in our series, we did touch upon living with disability and being gay, and so we decided, well, now is a great time to actually make that video.
So here we are. So for a lot of this, at least at the beginning, I think I get to shut up.
Well, I will explain a little bit about. So I have a condition called Poland syndrome. And this was first diagnosed in 1841.
Ooh.
Yes, by Dr. Alfred Poland.
Was he Polish?
No.
He wasn't, see?
He was not Polish.
It's from the name,
Just
not the
his
country.
name. But Dr. Alfred Poland first discovered this condition during an autopsy when he was a young medical student at Guy's Hospital in London, England.
All right. Oh, he's Brit, was he?
He's a Brit.
Right.
He's a Brit. So that's where the name comes from.
Hey, Michael, what is Poland syndrome?
Well, I have it pulled right up here
Oh,
on
isn't he smart?
the internet.
Look at us realizing that we need to do research sometimes before we just press record.
Yeah, you know,
verbal
there
diarrhea.
is hope for us yet.
Maybe.
So even though I have Poland syndrome, it's easier to read a medical explanation than to try to sit here and babble off
For sure.
something. So it says here, what are the symptoms of Poland syndrome? And it says, Poland syndrome is a disorder in which affected individuals are born with missing or underdeveloped muscles on one side of the body, resulting in abnormalities that can affect the chest, shoulder, arm, and hand. The extent and severity of the abnormalities vary among affected individuals. And then it goes on to say, what is the cause of Poland syndrome?
How come, Daddy?
The cause of Poland syndrome is unknown.
Right.
Most evidence supports the idea that it's a vascular abnormality that happens during the 6th week of development in the womb. And it involves the vascular and the lymphatic systems of the body.
Right. Something goes wrong quite early on in the developmental cycle.
But basically, they don't actually know what causes it. They do know it is not genetic. I can't pass it on to children. No one else in my family has it.
To the kids that we're not going to have?
The kids we're not going to have.
Oh, okay.
But if I was heterosexual, that would be a big deal.
Yes, it's a big deal whether things are genetic or not.
And
so there's no history of it in your family at all, in other words.
I am the only one that I am aware of, present or in the past.
Not genetic at all.
Who has had this, and no, it is not genetic. So they're fairly certain of that, but they don't exactly know what causes it. I did read somewhere today where regarding the vascular system, they think that possibly during fetal development, that whatever it is in the vascular system, blood does not flow as well to certain areas of the body
as it should be.
And so because they're deprived of the blood, and I'm hypothesizing here, they didn't actually say, but I'm guessing the tissue just dies and doesn't develop as it is supposed to.
Right.
So I think that is what the hypothesis they're working on. But again, they are not 100% about this.
Right.
So to say what causes it, well, they only think that it's a vascular and lymphatic disorder.
Right. And there's all different degrees of
yes, in fact,
syndrome,
it said that some people may not even be diagnosed until puberty.
Right.
Because basically what it affects, well, as you can see, for me, I'm probably at the more severe end of things. So my arm and my hand are, so I would have Poland syndactyly.
Which is about the hand.
Right, so anything syndactyly, which is also a condition all on its own. It doesn't have to be caused by Poland syndrome.
Right.
But syndactyly is a deformity of the arms and the hands.
Oh, arm and hand. Okay, right.
Arm and hand. But mine is connected in conjunction with Poland syndrome. So mainly, it also affects muscle development and also bone development. It can cause short ribs, not to be confused with short ribs. But so basically, I do not have a complete rib cage. I'm missing part. So my ribs stop here under my arm, where my armpit starts, and they do not connect to my sternum. So there's nothing here, basically. So because of that, my chest is very concave. It sinks in. And so because of that, my left lung is not developed. So I have one lung, essentially. And it does affect the pectoral muscle. I do have my pec here on the top, but there's nothing here below. So it affects muscle development, bone growth, and hands, fingers, and arm growth. And then so along with the bone development with my ribs, if you can see it here, but so here in my forearm, you usually normally have two bones. I only have one, from the wrist to the elbow. My elbow is fused in place at surgery. I had surgery when I was born, when I'm about 2 or 3 years old.
Right.
Because when I was born, my arm was folded up on my chest, and there was webbed skin. That's part of Poland syndrome, having webbed fingers and having webbing. So the surgeons removed all of that.
So that your arm could be free.
Free, yes. And it also affects tendon development. So they took tendon from one of my legs. I put it into my hand. And so my wrist can flex. And they were trying to get it to where my fingers could pinch together on their own independently. That didn't happen. But the wrist is able to flex.
But you can use them a little?
No.
Not really.
I can hold things in my hand because my wrist will close, but I can't actually pinch the fingers together. So yeah, there's a lot of bone development issues, muscle development issues. It is also something I didn't realize, but people with Poland syndrome often have scoliosis as well, which I also have. But I did find out through going to a chiropractor that regular chiropractic adjustments can actually help with correcting scoliosis. So I would highly recommend if you have scoliosis for whatever reason, because it is a proper condition all on its own.
And I didn't even know you had it.
It's not very severe. But I've always had a slight curve in my spine.
Yeah.
But yeah, my chiropractor back in Indianapolis was like, yeah, doing the chiropractor can really help with scoliosis.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's something to think about. So that's...
So, Michael, how has having Poland syndrome impacted your life?
So, well, okay, so that is basically what I have. That's my disability, is Poland syndrome, or PS for short.
PS.
PS. PS. But yeah, so like I say, it was first diagnosed all the way back in 1841, and even to this day, they don't know what causes it. Granted, so only 1 in 20,000 infants is born with Poland syndrome.
Pretty uncommon.
Pretty uncommon, and it's twice as likely to affect males.
So there must be some science there that they haven't figured out.
Correct.
That's interesting.
So because it's so rare, you know, there's not a lot of research into it. I mean, let's face it, it's not a nice, juicy, interesting topic. Like, I mean, pick anything.
Right.
You know, childhood leukemia.
Right.
Or anything, HIV.
Right.
Or what have you.
Right.
I doubt any...
COVID-19 vaccines.
Sure. I mean, I doubt any medical student or research student would ever get a government grant to study Poland syndrome.
Yeah.
Because it's so rare.
And it's not progressive, really, in any
No,
way.
it's not progressive. It is what it is out of the womb. And it's not life-threatening.
Right. So I think that's another thing that's a big on if you get a grant to study it or not. Because I have chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and I've had it for years, and that's not the point of this video. But that's another one that's like, what are you going to do? Like, don't die of that.
No.
So it's not a sexy disease to study.
Exactly. And even
Which is not to say that, like, other diseases are way worse.
No.
And we're not trying to say that, like, breast cancer is sexy. What I'm saying is that, like...
But to a researcher...
to the
medical community, those things are sexy. They are interesting to study.
You'd be much more interested and get much more money, probably, to study diseases that are more...
life-threatening.
More common and more life-threatening.
Yes.
Right.
Even with having the one lung, it is not... I have no health issues with my lungs. I've never had asthma.
Right.
I don't have trouble breathing.
Don't have an inhaler.
I know I've used an inhaler. Now, granted...
You're also not going to run the Boston Marathon.
No, I've never...
But then I'm also not going to run the Boston Marathon, by the way, and I have too. So
I've never been in physical sports. That's not only, well, because of not being able to breathe to run around, but also there's no protection over my heart.
Mm.
So if I ever have a hard impact to the chest,
that's not so good. No,
it could stop my heart.
Yeah, let's try.
So, you know, it has, you know, caused some limitations, but nothing health related. So, you know, that's why there's so little known about it.
Right. Exactly.
So that's what my disability is, and so now we can
talk about
go more into what it's like being gay with a physical disability.
Gay with a physical disability.
And
as if there wasn't already a strike. But we were talking before this, actually, before we recorded. We do speak when we're not on camera, by the way. And you were saying that you didn't get too much made fun of when you were a kid. You didn't catch a lot of crap from people.
No, well...
Which is good.
Yeah, well, I went to a grade school and high school that were specifically founded and developed to teach disabled children and to integrate them with able-bodied children.
Which is pretty neat, I would think.
Right. Well, I went to laboratory schools. If you're not familiar, it's a pretty rare school system. It's neither public nor private. They are normally associated with a university of some sort. Like my schools were both on a major university campus back in Illinois.
Right.
And it's state funded and so forth.
Definitely, the people I know that have ever been to one are all Midwestern.
Yeah,
it's not a system of school that we have in the Northeast that I know of.
No, and well, my schools are at ISU in Illinois State, at Normal, Illinois, which the college itself was founded as a teaching school. And my grade school and high school were founded primarily to give the college teaching students field experience.
Right, that makes sense.
So, and then
Gotta
over
get
time,
those certificates,
exactly.
or whatever.
And so over time, it progressed into helping assimilate disabled children into mainstream society, basically.
So then, at what point along in all of that experience were you figuring out you were gay, and how did that impact? How do you feel that your PS impacted your coming out experience or the experiences you had? Excuse me.
Come on,
my
just had
goodness.
dinner.
After you came out. I did just eat dinner. And there is seltzer.
There is seltzer. Well, I don't know that it really affected my coming out.
Are you from Canada?
Out. It didn't affect my coming out, but I think by the time I was in junior high, so like 7th, 8th grade, I knew I was gay. I had my first sexual experience when I was a high school freshman.
Ooh.
So I knew by then, certainly, that I was gay. As far as... It didn't affect my coming out.
So then how did you find it once you were out? How is life with a disability
So
living
look,
in a gay world?
I'm not here to try to talk to represent every disabled person in the LGBT community. I can only speak on my own experience.
Correct.
But I do feel that disabled people as a community have a common experience also. And I think it's true for straights and gays alike. We are seen as other. We are looked at as freaks. People do have certain reactions to us, especially if you have a physical deformity of the body, when it's very obvious, very clear, in public. And I mean, I've always been looked at and stared at and pointed at, people saying things and so forth. But
able-bodied people, get over it.
Well, it's more prevalent in LGBT circles.
You found?
Yes, because let's face it, even straights are very much aware that gay men, I don't know what it's like for lesbians, but gay men are very body conscious.
Overly so.
Yes, we work out till it kills us practically. We have to be perfect.
Right. Or
physically.
not. But like we were talking in our other video about all the different types. Right? There's all these different types and you got to fit it.
The heavier
so
guys.
If you decide to be a bear of a certain type, then
Right.
maybe you intentionally
I'm too
overwork out
skinny.
and you intentionally eat a lot. Like,
Right.
it's all a body dysmorphia, body obsession,
There's a lot of
whatever
it.
you want to
There's
call
a lot
it.
of it. So either you're too skinny, or
you're too
heavy,
you're too heavy,
or you're not muscular enough, or
your
maybe
hair's
you're
the
too
wrong
muscular,
color, or you have too much
or you're too
hair.
hairy.
Or,
yes, right. So add on being physically deformed. And let's face it, I am physically deformed. It's not a woe me thing. It's just a fact of life. I am physically deformed, and it is jarring. Look, in 45 years of life, I've never met anyone else like me.
Isn't
Right?
that interesting?
So for able-bodied people, I can imagine it's even more so.
Yeah.
Especially in the gay community.
Yeah.
It is jarring. It is like, oh, you're different. There's something very odd about you.
I ask all of you LGBT, well, we're talking mostly about gay men.
Yeah.
I ask you gay men out there, when's the last time you were out somewhere and you saw someone with a physical disability? Someone in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Someone
who was a little person. Although we actually saw one like a month ago. A little person at a gay venue, which was cool.
Yes.
But like, pick whatever you're thinking, And of course, we're not talking about like every disability that's ever disabled. Like,
no.
there's plenty of folks in the gay community, myself included, who are HIV positive or who've lived with AIDS for a long time. Some certain like really long-term survivors, or people battle depression and all sorts of other things. We're talking about physical disabilities or conditions.
Congenital birth defects.
Right.
Congenital birth defects.
When's the last time you observed that in somebody that you knew at the club? So just think about that and think about how challenging that can be for a person who wants to just go out and pop their pussy, as Rowley says on his channel. But no, I mean, you just want to go out and live your life and have a good time.
Yes.
Not be like, have people be like,
Yeah. Well, you know, because, yes, I have experienced a lot of avoidance, you know.
Yeah,
and,
I imagine that.
Yeah, a lot of avoidance.
You must get a lot of questions all the time.
Honestly, no. I don't. Most of what I experience personally is avoidance. Is just people not wanting interaction with me because I think they don't know how to react. They don't know how to interact. Again, I think it's lack of exposure.
Yes. Yeah.
And we talked about this in our very first video, is that people like me, gay people with disabilities, we need to get out there. We need to go to, because I mean, I mentioned this before, I love going to bathhouses. We're going to a gay club tonight for a leather fetish event. I'll be the only one there probably with at least a noticeable physical disability. Not including like deafness or blindness or what have you. That's not that as noticeable. You know.
And does that make you feel lonely when you're there?
Well, isolated. If I was there by myself, it'd be so different.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be that.
Aw, that's true. You don't.
But if I would go by myself, yeah, I'd be isolated because most guys would ignore me. Ignore me and avoid me. You know, I don't get snarky comments. I get avoidance and it just being ignored. You know, they stare, they glance, they take quick looks. And they make snap judgments right then, like, oh, you're different. Like, I don't know how to deal with you. I don't know how to handle this.
Right.
So I'm just going to not even talk to you. I'm not going to bother. And that's very common. And I'm sure, you know, most gays with disabilities, people with disabilities in general, deal with that.
Yeah.
It's just, that is a common experience.
And let me tell you all that do that. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
It does.
Don't do that.
You know, I think
the fact that he has pollen system doesn't mean that he's any sort of a different person.
No.
Look at this gorgeous guy. And he's a wonderful man. So, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of or afraid of.
Right.
If you think he looks cute in his leather hat, tell him he looks cute in his leather hat, just like you would tell anybody else at the club that he looks cute in their
outfit.
I can't speak for some reason.
Yeah, don't, you know.
You don't have to hold back just because someone is different.
If you see someone with a disability out at the club or at the bathhouse or what have you.
Or wherever.
Or just at the supermarket.
Just at the supermarket or on the subway.
You know, don't be afraid to be. It's not wrong to be curious. You're not being rude to be curious. It's natural to be curious.
Right.
Even among disabled people, if you see someone with a certain disability, I've seen people that have been like, oh, you know, okay,
that's
curious about.
Yeah.
There is a way to ask if you want to ask questions. There's a way not to ask.
What's a good way to ask? What's a good way that you would like to be asked?
I suppose.
I put him on the spot.
Okay, so one way not to ask a question, especially about limb deformities, years ago, when I was back home in Illinois, I started a brand new job with a telecommunications company. I will not mention the name. As a customer service rep, you know, with the cute little headset, talking on the phone. My very first day on the job, I didn't know a soul there.
Right.
I go into the lunchroom at break time to have my lunch,
Right.
and this complete stranger turns to me and says to me, "Were you a thalidomide baby?"
Oh, Jesus.
Now, for those of you who don't know what thalidomide is, back in...
No, I'm not that old, bitch.
Well, for one thing, yes, I'm not nearly old enough to be
Sorry,
a thalidomide
we're
baby.
old, so we know what thalidomide babies are.
So back in like the 50s and 60s,
Yeah, sometime like that, right?
thalidomide was
How's that?
given... Well, it was given to pregnant women.
Oh, right, okay.
It was considered a valid, perfectly harmless drug. I do not remember why it was given to them.
Yeah, I don't either. And it was perfectly harmless to the women.
It was some kind of prenatal
care
of some kind.
But, and it was harmless to the women,
to the mothers,
but not to the developing fetuses.
No, in reality, it was very damaging to the babies. It caused horrific deformities, primarily in the limbs, in the arms and in the legs.
Right. So it's not how to ask, but no. I mean, in a way, a person of a certain age, looking at the polydactyly that you have, you can sort of see where they're going with that. But like, that's not how you ever ask someone anything.
You don't blurt.
That's not how you ever ask someone
at
anything.
A complete stranger.
Especially not
a
that.
A complete stranger.
Are you kidding?
Who's your coworker?
Right.
You know,
so like, come on.
Not the way to make new friends.
Right. Or one that I have observed at least one person say to you is, "What happened?"
Yeah, that's happened a lot. Happens a lot.
Well, what do you mean? What happened? Like, that's not a good way to ask either.
No, just saying, "Oh, what happened to you?"
Yeah, what happened to you?
Yeah, walking out to a total stranger and be like, "What happened to you?"
You know what happened to me? I was born.
Yeah, right. Shit happens.
That's what happened to me. Like, what sort of a question is that? Anyway, that one annoys me when I've heard you get it.
Yes, I know.
I'm just like,
I know. But then on the other hand, this is new for you too.
Yeah.
You've never had to deal with this.
It is. I've had a couple of pretty good friends who have had physical disabilities, but certainly never been in a relationship with someone who has the physical disability. So one thing that I hope that I've done pretty well is try not to be overbearing about, like, can I help you with that? Can I help you with that? Can I help you with that? Can I help you with that?
No. And of course, I mean, you're my husband, so obviously I expect that it's different with you.
It's different with us.
With someone or a close friend.
When he's cooking, no matter what he looks like, I would be like, "Can I help you?"
Yeah, sure.
And him being him, he'll be like, "No."
But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say no.
99 times out of 100, you're going to say no.
Well, that's true.
But
I think that's true for most disabled people.
It's probably true of just a lot of people.
We're generally just going to say no. We can handle this.
Another person that I know in your family always says no. Also,
yes,
and she's not disabled.
My mother. I am my mother's son. That's just that way.
I mean, the apples don't fall far from the trees, do they, folks?
No, they don't.
And as you age, you really find out that more and more
just how closely you fell to the tree.
Right, don't you?
Yes.
You catch yourself being your parents all the time, don't you? And if you're not quite as old as us yet, you will.
You will find out very soon.
You will find out much more about all that.
But just blurting it out is not the best way. No. Now, if someone says to me, if I meet someone new, wherever it happens to be, and they might say, I don't know, maybe they could approach me and say, like, I'm really curious about something, or I've seen you around, I'm very curious about you, and I have questions, and I'm not sure how to ask, or I'm just curious about what happened to your arm, something along that line, like easing into it, like showing me you have a genuine curiosity and an interest in knowing about me.
Right.
That's perfectly acceptable.
That you care because you're actually interested in getting to know you for you.
Yes, and I think most disabled people would agree with that.
Yes, I think so.
I think so.
Right? Because guess what? Michael is a guy and he's a person. Just like all y'all.
Right.
No matter whether you have depression or spina bifida or cerebral palsy or none of the above. You're all people.
there's a whole gamut of disability.
Yeah. So
I'm here to talk about congenital birth defect primarily because that's my experience.
right.
You may look at me like I'm a total freak, and I am freaky.
Girl, you don't know the half.
But I am not the freak in the way you use the word freak.
Right. And if you're still thinking of people using words like that, you should probably think about why that is.
Yeah.
That's a you problem.
You have
That's
the problem.
a you problem. You need to think about that.
It's not my problem. That's right.
Right? So,
navigating through the gay world the way I am it's been difficult. It hasn't stopped me. As I say, I think there is, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's an assumption among able-bodied people that individuals like myself are somehow not sexual, that we don't have sexual needs or desires or feelings, or that we are looked at in a sexual way, that we are actually desired by other people. Right.
Oh. No, I haven't really thought much about that.
Because if I think you're a freak, then obviously, who's going to want you? And I do get those looks. I've been in places where it's like I get the look of, no one says it, but I can tell in the look I get, like, what the hell are you doing here? What are you? You're a god freak.
Right.
Get out, freak.
And
what are you doing here?
And the answer is, I'm a person and I like sex.
I belong here as much as anyone else.
Or I like drinking, or I like music, or I like leather,
I like going to the gay bars as much as anyone else.
Or out to a restaurant, or out for a walk, obviously. Or whatever.
I like a good cocktail happy hour as much as any other gay.
God's queen.
So that's what I'm doing there.
Right.
And if I am at the bathhouse, well, I have news for you. Yes, I am a sexual being.
Right.
Yes, people with disabilities are sexual beings. We have sexual desires and needs and urges like everyone else.
Yeah, because you're like everyone else.
We enjoy sex. If we can find people who are willing to actually have sex with us, because that's an issue too. I mean, at the bathhouse, probably, I don't know, the majority of the guys are not going to hook up with me. But you know what? I've met so many friendly, wonderful, caring men in bathhouses, in sex clubs that are perfectly fine with me, have no issues with me.
They get it.
Yeah. And
you give them what they want.
I give them what they want, and I mean, I've even
you take what you want.
I take what I want, absolutely, no holds barred. But
oh, my bar hole!
Oh Lord! But
why?
I mean, we're not monetized now anyway, so what difference does it make? But I mean, I've even been fortunate enough to meet guys that were actually turned on by the fact that I had a little arm.
There you go.
And there is the issue of fetishizing people with disabilities.
That's also not the
That's
best.
a whole nother. Well, okay. Here's my perspective.
Tell us.
I understand why it's problematic.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, I guess I'd rather that you fetishize me than ignored me and avoided me. Like if you're gonna think I'm a freak, then let's get freaky. Let it be a positive.
Positive.
Let it be a positive, and I would encourage all people with disabilities, don't automatically be turned off by someone that is sexually drawn to you because of it. Let it work for you. Yeah. Use it to your advantage.
Sure, right. You never know.
Now, that's not to say let yourself be abused.
Well,
obviously. And if it ever gets to that point, then get the hell out.
Right. Then that's a different set of discussion.
I think with any fetish, there is validity.
Sure.
Look, I don't agree with every fetish out there, and I think plenty of them are wacko. But I'm not.
Hopefully,
fasting.
nobody agrees with all of them.
No,
That
absolutely
would be
not.
a little much.
Absolutely not. And there's no shade, no judgment. But
No.
I'm just saying, if someone you encounter has a disability fetish, and it is a real fetish,
The thing.
don't be automatically offended.
Right.
Because I've had wonderful experiences with men that specifically sought me out because of it. And they were lovely, and I had good experience. So, I run the gamut of reactions.
I bet.
I go from the majority, and it's the majority, who are avoiding and ignoring and want nothing to do with me, all the way to basically friendly. They'll talk to me, but they're not going to hook up. All the way, then at the other end to like guys that are complete all over it, and don't care, like this guy who
I don't have a disability fetish.
No,
I just love you for you because
That's
you're
right.
gorgeous and a wonderful guy.
And there's plenty of guys out there who have that same outlook and attitude, but it is hard to find them. It is hard to find them. I would say that is a minority.
I'm
within
just
the
a
gay
diamond
community.
in the
You
rough.
are a diamond, baby.
No.
No, and that's true though. So
But
had
just treat people as people. Really, is
Yeah.
a thing I'm just wanting to put out there. Right?
exactly.
Like,
And overall, I have to say I've had a positive, experience as a gay with a disability. I mean, yeah, it can be a little disheartening when you're out somewhere and they absolutely will not talk to you, they ignore you, they avoid you. I get it, I do, but at the same time, as I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, if we don't put ourselves out there, they're never, and this is true for society in general, they're never going to get used to us.
That's true.
They're never going to see us as just regular people that they see all the time. And like I say, I've never met anyone else with my condition. Because it is so rare, 1 in 20,000 kids, and that's global.
Right.
That's not just here in the U.S. That is a global number statistic.
Right.
So yeah, I get it. I'm different. But if I don't put myself out there and expose myself, but expose society.
Expose myself. No.
Calm it down.
That's not what we meant.
If I don't expose myself to the gay community and to the world in general, they're never going to be accepting.
Nobody's going to know.
So, you have to have some balls to do it. You got to put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there.
Go to the bars, go to a club, go to a bathhouse. They're fun.
And for those of us that are more able-bodied in outward appearance, at least, just be friendly.
Yeah.
Like, this is not that complicated. Like,
I won't bite unless you like it.
Okay. But folks that are different looking in any way, just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just be friendly to people, and they'll be friendly to you. And you'll get to meet some interesting people and probably learn things and expand your perspective.
Now, having said that, I know we all have types.
Yeah.
I don't expect to hook up with every guy that I
Yes,
run
you
in.
do.
Yeah, well, I kind of do, but
you expect to, but
in
it's not
reality,
how the world really works.
In reality, I don't expect to hook up with everyone I run into.
Yeah, I expect to hook up with every hot guy that I run into.
No. That's
joking
not the type.
aside, that's
Because,
not what really happens.
I do, and here's something that is maybe against me. I do assume that it's about my arm. Primarily, if someone just isn't interested. But it could be something different.
It might or might not be.
Maybe because I'm bald, maybe because I'm too skinny, maybe because I'm not as
right,
muscly as they want.
Or the right skin color they're looking for.
Right.
Or you're too hairy or not hairy enough. Or...
And look, I don't, if you don't want to hook up because of my disability, like I get it, it's fine. Like I don't expect to hook up with every guy that I run into, but you don't need to avoid and ignore people that
Right.
are physically disabled.
Right. It's just not that nice, guys.
You may not be attracted, and that's fine. I'm not attracted to every guy in the world. But
be nice to people.
You know, I've got my types and my likes and what I want as much as anyone else, but I don't think that I'm just overtly rude to anyone just because they approach me and they might not meet what I'm looking for.
Some standard of whatever.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to just be open to interacting with people, and you can learn new
Exactly.
things, and you can meet new friends, and
Right.
you know, there's all sorts of people to meet in the world.
You know.
So that's the theme of this episode. Broaden your motherfucking horizons, bitches.
Get over yourself.
Get over yourself.
So, it's been all about me, but what about you as an able-bodied gay dating a disabled gay? What is...
I just get annoyed by the looks that we get sometimes. Not even necessarily in gay places.
Just in general.
Yeah, in general. Just walking down the street, it's clear that people are like,
those. What are you two doing together?
Looks. Or just, oh, that guy's different kind of a look.
Right.
Where, like, you know, I'm not sure why people feel the need to, like, make it so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, you can realize that somebody looks different and not give them, like, the who's it or what's it for.
Right.
You know, like, a little person is little. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, people who broke their foot. Like, people who
then they're not
are quadriplegic are quadriplegic. Like, they're not like, you don't have to be like, oh my God, I never saw someone with a funny different arm that isn't what I'm used to before.
Yeah.
Well, what if you never have?
So,
now you have. So what difference does it make?
Exactly.
Like, so, you're much better at it than I am about people who sort of will indiscreetly ask like a question. We were at a establishment somewhere near here recently, and just buying a few things, and the guy at the counter goes, "Oh, do you mind if I ask what's going on? What happened? Because my mother had a thing that happened with this and that and the other, and she got really badly burned, and blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I mean, I don't know. Ask whatever you want, but like, we're just here to like get a bottle of this and a bottle of that. Like, we don't need to know your story.
Right.
Just because you're the center of your story doesn't mean that anyone else wants to know about it necessarily.
I think there is.
Maybe that's too rude, but I don't know. It annoys me when people are all like, "Tell me everything about you, because I'm going to tell you everything about me."
Right.
You know, well, maybe I don't want to tell you everything about me. I didn't ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is sort of a sense of entitlement among able-bodied people who have a family member or a friend with a disability that they can just then all have a free pass to just blatantly ask anyone with a disability about themselves.
Oh my God, yeah, my friend's brother is deaf.
Right.
You know, that's not the same.
Right.
Apples and wombats, you know, that's not the same at all. But I don't know, I just love you for you. So I don't tend to think about it too much.
Right.
To the point where any number of times, I'm not going to remember any of the sort of amusing ones right now, probably. But I've said a funny phrase or something at some point, and then a little while, like about 2 or 3 or 4 minutes later, I go, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have."
Well, like when you
a classic is, "Do you want a hand with that?"
Right? Can I lend you a hand or something?
And that's like that. That isn't what I don't. I didn't. Dude, that's not what I meant to ask.
I mean, I think it's rather funny, but because I know you're not asking to be a douchebag.
I'm just asking because I'm sometimes not very
just
smart.
Asking because you know it's
I'm asking to try to be helpful.
It's something that people ask. It's
it's a phraseology.
It's a common turn of phrase.
Right.
It's not anything that was asked because I only have one hand.
Right.
It's a common turn of phrase.
Right.
And you're wanting to help, and that's fine.
Now I'm trying to remember. What's the thing? Something to do with the kitchen. I was like, Now I'm not going to remember it. We might have to cut this out, and I'll remember it later and put it in. But there was something that was happening that I watched you do, and I thought, I wonder why he's doing it that way. I wonder how come he doesn't do it this other way, like this. I didn't say anything. And then I think I mentioned it to you eventually later, because like literally an hour later, I was like, why the hell do you think he's not doing it like that? He can't use both hands to do it the way I do it. He's doing it the way he does it.
Right.
He got the same result.
Exactly.
But I don't remember what it was now. But that was one of those times where I was like, well, what the hell's wrong with you? Of course he's not doing it the same way as you.
Yeah.
Duh. So it's a continual learning for me too.
Right.
Of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, right. Like I don't think about the fact that you have to make certain adjustments about this and that and the other thing.
Right.
As much as I should maybe, but I'm trying.
Oh yeah. And you're doing very well.
Oh good.
I think.
Oh good. Yay.
Yay.
But yeah, it's
every day's a learning experience.
every day's a school day.
That's
as the
right.
kids say.
For those of us who are born with disability, we don't know any different.
Right.
You know,
That's another thing.
We just live our lives and we learn through trial and error how to navigate through the world.
Right. What's it
You
like
know.
to not have two full hands? Is a weird question. Just
Yes.
like the question I get, completely different. But it's just like, in a way, the question I get. What's it like to be an only child? Don't ask me.
Right.
It's all I know.
I can't
So-
tell you because I never had two hands.
All right.
you
I've never
know.
had a sibling, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, I don't know what it's like to have two functional arms. I can't tell you the difference.
Right.
You know, I just know what life is like for me.
Right. And
So-
how you've adapted and thrived
Yeah.
in
pretty
the body that you have.
I mean, it's been a struggle. I did a lot of physical therapy as a child
Mhm.
and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's kind of par for the course sometimes. But,
You feel like it helped a lot.
oh, well, I mean, yeah, more so than if I hadn't
Done it.
done it,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, there are a lot of, I still, you know, I can't tie shoes.
Right.
You know, basic things that most people take for granted. And they tried to teach me to do it with one hand. I wasn't able to get the hang of it. But
yeah.
but overall, yes, I think it was helpful
Yeah.
because it forced me to
Mm.
learn that I have to find ways
Right.
of doing things.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
You can always try and find ways.
Yes. But as a gay with a disability, yeah, it can be difficult, and it has been. But overall, I have to say, it's been a fairly positive experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know how you can make it a better experience is by being nice to people.
That's
and just being calm, relaxed, and interacting with
I
people.
can tell you right now, being disabled has not kept me a virgin. You know,
Girl, nobody's surprised by that twin.
it hasn't kept me from living a full life, sexually and otherwise.
Yes.
So just, you know, be nice to people, be kind. And if you really want to be kind to us, subscribe.
Exactly. That's where I was going to go too. Ring that bell.
Ring the
subscribe,
notification bell, subscribe.
Give that little likey thumb a like. We
Leave-
love likes.
We love likes. Leave comments and questions down below. If you have a disability, whether you're gay or not, if you have Poland syndrome or know someone with it, give us a shout out.
Yeah,
Talk
let
to
us
us.
know.
Let's open up.
We love to meet
conversation.
other people that have Poland syndrome.
Absolutely.
That'd be cool.
Or whatever disability you have,
Or whatever.
whether you're gay, straight, bi, whatever, let us know. Let's have a talk. Let's give us questions and comments. If you liked this video, share it, please.
Sure. Send
That'd
it to
be
your friends.
amazing.
Post it on your Insta.
Yeah, whatever. We'll let you do whatever you like. Just it would really help us out a lot, and we really appreciate it. We also want to thank everyone who has been watching our videos. We have noticed that the numbers of viewers are going up on
getting
videos.
a view or two
We're
here
getting
and there.
there. You just aren't subscribing, which I don't understand.
We would love you to subscribe.
Please subscribe. That'd be awesome and very appreciated. Help us build the platform, build the channel.
Yes.
And if you like this video and want more videos like this, let us know.
Yeah, let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about. If there's a specific area of this you want to know more about.
If you want to know more about Poland syndrome, we can do a part 2.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And just a programming note. We are not going to be around this coming weekend.
Yes,
So don't look for a video
There's
this weekend.
going to be another gap in filming.
There's going to be another gap. It's okay, Queen. It's okay. It's okay. We'll be back, we promise.
We'll be back, we promise. So thanks so much for watching.
We love you.
Please do like, subscribe, and share, and we will
Push
see
that
you.
bell.
Ring that bell, and we will see you in the next video, whenever it is.
We sure will.
So cheers and take care.
Bye.